This is the Experience Pros Radio Show. Got an opinion or want to ask us a question? Email radio@experiencepros.com or message us on the Experience Pros Facebook page, and we'll interact with you live on the show.
Welcome back to the Experience Pros Radio Show, home of positive business talk. You thought lions, tigers, and bears were oh my. But what about hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, and tornadoes?
Which have been running pretty rampant over North America the last, forever. It seems like every time we turn around, there's some type of natural disaster going on. And according to FEMA, almost 40% of small businesses close after a natural disaster, and most don't ever recover. Our guest even says that some of the losses may not be as obvious as, say, flood or wind damage claims. Peter J. Strauss, he's an attorney, captive insurance manager, and author of several books. He's also managing member of the Strauss Law Firm based out of Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. He says, we need to get through. We might not be as insured as we think we are. Peter Strauss, welcome to Experience Pros.
Well, thank you very much. That's quite a mouthful of an introduction. I appreciate it.
Peter, it's nice to have you back on the program. Why do so many businesses end up going out of business after a natural disaster? Aren't they covered? Shouldn't they just be able to just rebuild and rehang the shingle?
I mean, you could take this question in so many different angles. What we typically find is, from a base level, who likes insurance? Who likes buying it? Nobody.
Right.
And so business owners typically, from our standpoint, they typically buy only what they think they need to buy. And they do it with the idea of, let me get this insurance agent out of my office as quickly as possible. Let me spend as little money as possible. And then let me bury my head in the sand and hope that nothing bad happens. And so, people worry about the obvious, like floods, or they worry about major storms. So what they don't worry about are things like, what if I have to keep payroll going while we evacuated town for 2 weeks, or what if all of our medical supplies have been destroyed and we don't have the cash to cover that, or so many different avenues of cost that business owners don't anticipate when natural disasters strike, that they unfortunately see the big piece, like, okay, I can get the drywall fixed in my office, but can I get my software system back up and running? Yeah. So it's a complicated vehicle.
It is complicated. And Peter, and it always comes after the fact, after the disaster, after when you realize, I didn't even know, or I didn't even think about that. And so when we think about having these conversations with our insurance agents, and, these worst case scenarios, oftentimes it becomes too big of, okay, well, did you think about this problem? Did you think about this problem? And so is there some happy middle ground that we can come to, or do we really need to make sure that we are covered for every possible situation that's out there?
Well, it's another complicated issue from the standpoint of, we don't really know, and we don't really want to spend good money for something that we're not really anticipating. We specialize on building private insurance companies for business owners that they own, and they get to participate in the profitability of their risk management, meaning all the insurance they buy from themselves, if they don't have a loss, they keep the premiums. That's about the best way that we've seen it done. Otherwise, you're effectively laying it in the hands of the agent and, the truth serum that they're hoping that you're making.
Is there insurance for pretty much, like you had said, like for payroll and for, replacing all the medical equipment? And are there certain situations that are not covered? Do we hit a limit of what we can't cover with insurance?
Well, so I'll give you a good example. So we build these private insurance companies called captive insurance companies. And when we evaluate a business, we, in general, flip over every rock to evaluate every single scenario to arrive at a basket of coverages for them that will cover absolutely every liability known to man. We typically have the capabilities to write 150 different types of coverage. So there's not really a scenario that couldn't be covered. It's just a question of choice. What do we want to cover? And the issue in general really is, if I'm purchasing insurance from a third-party carrier and I know I'm never going to see my money again, then I want to buy as little as possible. If I'm buying insurance from myself, then I want to buy as much insurance as I can. Because then you kind of get both into the...
Yeah, Peter, you paint kind of a grim picture. If I'm purchasing something from insurance from a third-party carrier and I know I'm never going to see it again, sure, we put our money down the funnel, but we hope that when disaster does strike, that we are covered. Let me give you an example. I lived out in Sterling, Colorado, northeast corner of Colorado for a number of years. And back in the 90s, the 500-year flood came through and took out an entire city called Atwood, just south of Sterling. And the business, it was flooded, but it didn't move the property, didn't move the building 6 inches off of its foundation. And therefore, the flood insurance that they had did not pay.
That is a story we hear all the time. I can throw myself under the bus if you'd like. I have a dock in my backyard, and Hilton Head, South Carolina had not experienced a major hurricane in, I don't know, maybe 40 years. We had to evacuate for 9 days. I had to create a mobile office in 2 different cities to accommodate my team. I was jumping up and down with excitement, which may sound odd, but I thought, finally the storm will rip off my dock and I'll get some value out of the insurance that I purchase every year. I did lose the dock. I called my agent and they said that there was an exclusion in my policy for named storms in coastal areas.
Oh my.
Which out of that, I thought, okay, maybe buying the best policy isn't the cheapest quote. That's typically when we go into negotiations is, I'm going to buy whoever can get this to me for the least amount of money. But as it turns out, the less you buy, the less you're covered. So
that is the quote, right? The less you buy, the less you are covered. And this is something too that we need to know, that we are choosing how much we want to be covered by the policies that we choose. This is a complicated conversation, one that has lots of different avenues that it can go on depending on your own situation, which is why you need an expert like Peter Strauss, peterjstrauss.com. Peter, is there any other contact information you want us to share for people to get in touch with you?
Certainly. I'm happy to throw out our phone number, 843-681-4190. Or our website, HamiltonCaptiveManagement.com.
There you go. Peter, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry we have to go. The commercial break's going to hit us right away. You're listening to the Experience Pros Radio Network.
The Experience Pros, revolutionizing the way people treat people in business.